For 6 months, Hassan worked as a night porter at the Grand Palace Hotel in Tartus, signing in as the sun set and escaping to his room when it rose the following day. Even in this country, where you could rely upon nothing and nobody, betrayal and bombs, death and suffering aside, you could rely upon the sun to rise. For 6 months, Hassan took off his suit every morning and headed to the water. A section of the beach had been partitioned for the foreign tourists, mostly government contractors and journalists, and visiting dignitaries from friendly countries. More often than not, this prime spot was empty. Armed guards from the Ministry of Tourism were always on hand, in shirt sleeves and sunglasses, whispering into walkie-talkies and polishing their automatic rifles. As he swam back and forth in parallel to the beach, beyond the floating boundary, Hassan got to know each of the guards by their facial tics and moustaches. A couple of them also worked as close protection for some of the visiting Americans. They might have been moonlighting. There was never any nod or word of recognition. Swimming was a chore. It was boring after 10 or 20 minutes. After 3 hours it was agonising. After 4 it was dangerous. As much as the water itself, Hassan's enemy was cramp and fatigue. But as the proverb says, patience is the key to relief. And relief, when it was finally in sight, would be around 6 kilometres away. Hassan did not know anyone who had ever swum that far. Early one morning, before the guards arrived, he paced out his swim at around 200 metres. 5 lengths, which took him approximately 30 minutes, equaled 1 kilometre. 6 kilometres equaled 180 minutes, 3 hours. After 6 months, he was able to manage 4 hours in the water by alternating strokes, occasionally swimming on his back and sometimes treading water. 4 hours would be enough. After another 6 months, he arrived in Bodrum. He journeyed north, avoiding Aleppo, then onwards to the Onkupinar border crossing, where a returning refugee sold him, at great expense, his Turkish papers. With the help of other Syrians, in particular the brothers who took him in when he fell sick, he walked, hitched, and stowed his way to the Turkish Aegean. He had lost too much weight, and he had no money to pay for a boat. He borrowed a few coins to buy a notebook and some pencils, to earn a little money selling sketches and portraits. He built sandcastles and sculptures, and offered an upturned baseball cap to the English and German tourists who stopped to admire his work. But there was only ever enough money to buy food. There would never be enough for the traffickers. He left at dawn on his first attempt. He stowed his toiletries, shoes, clothes and notebooks in a plastic bag, wrapped in another plastic bag inside his backpack. He pulled the pack over his shoulders, clipped the straps around his chest and stomach, and walked into the sea. He heard laughter and shouting from the others who were camped along the beach. "Don't be a fool," someone cried. "You'll never make it. It can't be done." A child cried out, "Look, Mama, he's wearing his underpants." But he made good progress. He could see the tip of cars when he looked up. If those grinning Italians, if only they had been English, he might have been able to explain, hadn't dragged him out of the water and taken him back to the beach, he might have made it. The next time it was the Coast Guard or the Navy, some kind of uniform. And he would have been in trouble if he hadn't run off when they landed at the harbour, sprinting like a fool along the jetty, a crazy man in pants waking the tourists from their slumber below decks. The third time he was buzzed by idiots on jet skis. No, daytime was no good. It took another 3 weeks of sketches, portraits and sculptures before he could buy the right head torch and compass. The shopkeeper assured him they were both waterproof. He did not ask if they could withstand the ocean. Even when the light went out, his strength would be the measure of his desire. As the day began to fade, he sat down on the beach to eat the few scraps of food he had left. He took off his clothes and packed his bag. Fixing the torch as tight as he could stand, he took a bearing with the compass and tied it around his neck. As he mumbled one final prayer, a voice behind him shouted, "Hey, underpant man!" A woman with a toddler on her hip walked towards him. She was pulling a small inflatable dinghy behind her. "If you must try again, take this." The dinghy landed at his feet. "Tie it to your pack, it will help you float." How could he turn down her gift? So there he was, a skinny man breaststroking towards a bloody horizon, the sun setting below the mountains to one side. The inflatable followed, like a taunt that would not be shaken off. And that's it.